This episode is brought to you by Netflix. Most Valuable Promotions and Netflix are hosting a blockbuster triple headliner Saturday, May 16th. Ronda Rousey returns to face fellow women's MMA pioneer Gina Carano in the main event. Plus co-mains Nate Diaz versus Mike Perry. And the best heavyweight in the world, Francis Ngannou versus Felipe Lins. Watch Ronda Rousey versus Gina Carano, live only on Netflix. Saturday, May 16th at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 6 p.m. Pacific Time.
So good, so good, so good.
Everything you want for summer is at Nordstrom Rack stores now, and up to 60% off. Stock up and save on the brands you love like Vince, Sam Edelman, Frame, and Free People. Join the Nordy Club to unlock exclusive discounts, shop new arrivals first, and more. Plus, buy online and pick up at your favorite Rack store for free. Great brands, great prices. That's why you Rack.
Ready to soundtrack your summer? With Red Bull Summer All Day Play, you choose a playlist that fits your summer vibe the best. Are you a festival fanatic, a deep end DJ, a road dog, or a trail mixer? Just add a song to your chosen playlist and put your summer on track. Red Bull Summer All Day Play. Red Bull gives you wings. Visit redbull.com/brightsummer ahead to learn more. See you this summer.
And there's a clip of this week's Nostalgia episode coming up shortly. That was me and Dan going back down memory lane to the 2008. There we are.
That's so far into the future, isn't it? Surely.
Yeah.
The planet's done by then, isn't it?
Imagine
Finito.
Somehow Bernardo Silva is still City captain.
Going around tackling the asteroid.
Yeah. That was me and Dan going back down memory lane to the 2008. I've done it again. There we are. 2008. Nearly there. There's a clip of this week's Nostalgia episode coming up shortly. That was me and Dan going back down memory lane to the 08-09 season. If you want to hear the full thing now, don't laugh. Don't laugh at me doing that.
Sorry. Oh,
that was me and Dan going back down memory lane to the 08-09 season. If you want to hear the full thing now, just head on over to members.bluemoonpodcast.com. I'll be back next week, so I'll see you then. I'll probably still be reading this fucking script by that time.
This is the Blue Moon Podcast. Coming up, we've got all the news and views from Manchester City's week. It's your club, and this is your show.
A pair of 3-0 wins this week has given Manchester City the goal difference advantage over Arsenal going into the final two matches of the season. It's just a shame that they still trail on points and still need a favour from either an already relegated team that's 3 points off the bottom of the table, or a side that's one of those that they've just beaten 3-0, been largely in free fall since the turn of the year, and who has a European final 3 days later. But you know, stranger things have happened. On today's Blue Moon podcast, we'll discuss the talking points from the wins over Brentford and Crystal Palace, plus we'll look ahead to a crunch week as City travel to Wembley to face Chelsea before a challenging trip to Bournemouth on Tuesday night. Sam Rosbottom's back to tell us all about City's quirky FA Cup final history before journalist and Bournemouth fan Robert Santonna explains what to expect on the south coast. Here we go then. I'm David Mooney. This week I am joined by City fan Dan Burke.
Hello, David. And
from Sporting News we got Dom Farrell back. Hello, Dom.
All right, David, how are you?
Not too bad, thanks. Not too bad. Dan, are you well?
Yeah, pretty good, thanks. Can't complain.
Good. Now, before we get into the weeds of the week, I don't know if either of you saw this. During the Palace game, just after the ref had booked the Palace player for diving, and they were obviously checking it on the VAR and waiting, and Donnarumma was just standing around with the ball, the ref blasted his whistle right next to Donnarumma, and it scared the living daylights out of him. And so I just wondered, what's the loudest, most unpleasant noise you've heard? Or what's the biggest jump scare you've had? Or maybe both. Dan, what are you going for?
Yeah, I got one. So I was in Santiago in Chile about 10 years ago, and in the middle of the city there's this sort of like big hill, I don't know what you call it, a mound that you can sort of climb, and there's like a monument up there. And me and my girlfriend at the time climbed up there, and it was quite a sensitive time around like ISIS and like the Charlie Hebdo attack in Paris and all that kind of stuff. And there was just all of a sudden out of nowhere this incredibly loud bang, and immediately I thought, well, that's a terrorist attack. We're in the middle of a terrorist attack. This is terrifying. So we immediately started climbing down from this mountain. And you know, like when cats get scared and their eyes go really wide and they get like a bushy tail? Yeah. That's what we must have looked like, because I was absolutely terrified. I was like, I'm going to die or something. And it was weird because people were looking at us and kind of like laughing at us. That we were obviously scared. So we get to the bottom of the hill. And anyway, it turns out later that there was like at a certain time each day, there was like a ceremonial firing of a cannon going off in this part of town that we didn't know about. And it just completely caught us by surprise. And yeah, if you don't know that a cannon's going to go off near you and you just hear an incredibly loud bang, it's bloody terrifying, let me tell you that.
I can imagine, yeah. I think that happened in Edinburgh when we were up there. But it's obviously, it's a lot more well-known that they fire cannons in Edinburgh, I guess.
Yeah, and around that same time in my life as well, actually, I gave someone a massive jump scare when I was living in Australia and I was coming home from work. It was dark, it was evening. I was wearing like black work pants and a black jacket. And I turned the corner of this building, this like brick building, and this guy was turning the corner at the exact same time. So we basically like walked into each other, and I scared the living daylights out of this guy because he just didn't expect someone else to be coming around the corner. And the best part was that he was like really Australian about it. He was like, "Bloody hell, mate, you scared the living shit out of me." It was just, yeah. I felt really sorry for him because it must have been terrifying. He must have been thought his life was about to end or something.
And you're what, 6'5"?
6'6", yeah.
6'6", yeah. So
can't have been easy for him, yeah.
Yeah, massive bloke.
But I'm a gentle giant, you know.
Yeah. Dom, how about you? Any loud noises, unpleasant jump scares, that sort of thing?
Yes. So I mean, it's not totally dissimilar. So my wife worked in Malta for 2.5 years. She was a sub-editor at the Times of Malta, which is the English language paper out there. And I sort of visited a bit, and then I lived out there for 18 months myself. You might well have Maltese listeners, and they can pull me up on the finer details of this if they like. But around the summer, it's Festa season, which is basically every village and town all have their own kind of patron saint and church and all the rest of it. A thing around Festa time is you do up the town in the colours of that church and your saint, and there's fireworks at night, celebrations, loads of good food. It's really cool community thing. Everyone gets out and does things together. It is also, I think, if you look at when the blokes get involved a bit, it's probably a little bit of a. I hesitate to say dick measuring contest, but it is all like. You want to be the village next door. You've got to have a better do than them, and it's got to be bigger and better and louder. And there are fireworks, including, which I didn't know until the first time I stayed over there in the summer. Firework in Festa season, they set off fireworks in broad daylight about 11 in the morning to go, hey, it's Festa time. And yeah, similarly, I was sort of like I'd flown in and it was a late night, and I was catching some sleep, and it bombed, just went off, and they're loud because everyone's got to try and get louder than the lads next door and try and have the best Festa. It's ludicrous. But I actually did. So that startled me big time. But to take this thing to a ridiculous degree, there's a fellow called Lawrence Greck, who was like the old editor at the paper. He passed away not too long ago. Myself and my wife were at a sort of a function with him, and he was like regaling us with stories. He'd like sort of like a lifelong journalist. He'd like been. He edited the paper, but he was also like a foreign correspondent for various news agencies. So he was quite in with all the diplomatic corps guys, and he told us this story of there was a guy who got sent to work at an American embassy over there who'd done a tour in Iraq or Afghanistan, and after that it was like, let's sort him out, got him a job at the nice quiet life at the American embassy in Malta, or so he thought. So he rocks up for this, having previously been in actual war zones. And he was surprised by Festa explosions, but his instant reaction was he legged it to the embassy, banging on the gate, let me in, I think there's an attack. And they're like, oh, no, they're just doing the fireworks at 11 o'clock in the morning. He's like, what? So yeah, he completely lost his head, apparently, the poor fella.
Good. Well, if you've not seen it, if you can go and find it, Donnarumma's reaction is again one of the most Italian things that you can see as the ref blows his whistle down his ear. Right, so let's talk about the games proper then. Dan, I want to start with Phil Foden. Normally we'd start with kind of bigger picture stuff and go in, but I think that's better placed a bit later on. Let's look at a couple of individual performances, because he came on against Brentford, had a nice little cameo, forced an unreal save from Kelleher in the Brentford game, and then starts the game against Palace, wins man of the match. It's been a good week for him.
Very much so, yeah. I mean, there was another chance that he had against Brentford at the weekend that I found a little bit kind of frustrated. You know, when he's sort of at the near post and he kind of hits it straight at Kelleher, and it's just quite a weak finish. And I was thinking at the time, if that's a confident Phil Foden, he just lashes that bottom corner, you know, far corner, you know, and he just puts his foot through it, and it just sort of hinted to me that he's just not quite the player that he was at the moment. And then, yeah, like you say, he sort of grew into that game against Brentford. Deserved the start against Palace, was excellent. He was sort of running the show from the middle, spraying passes around, looking really like he was enjoying himself. And, you know, that's so enjoyable to watch when Phil Foden's enjoying himself. I'm going to say the line, Bert. He took the ball on the half turn and all that kind of stuff. You know, he was doing classic Phil Foden stuff, and it's just great to see. And after the game, he looked very relaxed in the interview. He was very kind of matter of fact about his form. You know, he wasn't blaming it on external factors or, you know, mental health issues or anything like that. He was just saying, basically, start of the season I was playing well, then I stopped playing well, fell out the team. Like, that's football. I've been working hard in training to try and get back in. And it gives Pep a bit of a selection dilemma, I think, now, to kind of, does he disrupt this team that he's been so faithful to in recent weeks and months and bring Phil Foden back in? You kind of think, can Foden and Cherky play together? Can they complement each other? Because I think the problem with Foden in that game against Southampton, when he was hauled off after an hour or whatever it was, the semi-final, was that he was shunted out to the wing, and I don't think that suits him very well. So, yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see how Pep uses him, but he definitely looks like he's getting back to something approaching his best.
Yeah, can I just say the line, Bert, didn't get the reaction it deserved. Absolute
slipped it in there.
Very well done, Dom. 2 assists against Palace is it's good that he's adding the numbers again. From he's actually got a bit of end product in the game. It's not just a good performance. There is something to show for it as well.
Yeah, I mean, he's always been like quite a big numbers guy, hasn't he? Like even last season, like this I think he got into double figures for goals across all competitions there. And obviously just before his form tailed off, he went on a really nice scoring run around December. So if he's playing and confident and he's doing all the things that he does, goals and assists will just always follow. It's been really encouraging to see, because I don't think I was the only one that found the Southampton performance really sort of quite sad, really. In some ways, after he'd had his experience with England. But there was also in that Tuchel played him in both of those games, because he said like he's looked great in training. So I mean, I know we don't know enough and we can't pry too much. But there was the thing he said at the end of last season about sort of mental struggles, and I think it's an idea of him just sort of being mentally unblocked a little bit. And I don't know. I mean,
It's also, though, because Guardiola's spent the last, when he's been out of form over the last 2 years, Guardiola's spent that time not saying anything other than Foden will be back. Like, when he's ready, he'll be back.
Yeah, absolutely. The interesting thing is, though, Guardiola did say the other week that, I can't remember exactly the context from the press conference, but something about Phil's never going to be the guy to sort of be a playmaker or something, like to play deep or something. What was it? This is fantastic podcasting. The man said a thing that I can't quite remember. Basically, he said something pertaining to that he's done previously about Phil's got his talent around you want him close to the goal, round the box. He's got a sense of goal, yada yada. Ever since then, he's played in a midfield 2 with Bernardo Silva. So, and it's gone quite well. Because I've always thought this idea of Foden being closer to the goal, and yet obviously we've just said numbers take care of themselves with him. He's good in those positions, but I don't know, I've always thought there is something to be said for him deeper, like Dan said, spraying the passes around, getting on the ball. Particularly at a time when, you know, it's easy to forget that Bernardo Silva turned up at City as a right winger, very attacking player. And like Pep was saying last night that, you know, Phil's better close to the box, but Bernardo in the overall aspect of the game is, you know, he can do everything. And then he said that Bernardo's a granddad now, even though he's 31. And he was he said Phil's a little boy, and then corrected himself, because, you know, he is 20. That's the thing about players that come through youth academies. They're kind of eternally 18, aren't they? But he's 20. He's 26 this summer. So he's not anymore. Maybe there's an element that growing out of being the boy in the team is a bit of a challenge for him. But I think, if you had said to someone when Bernardo Silva rocked up from Monaco in 2017, he's going to be this player 9 years later, you'd have got some funny looks. And I don't know, a time when there's probably going to be there's going to be more change in the sun with experienced guys leaving. And there's a lot of players now in that squad. You look at the team against Palace that like being around the box. I think there's something to be said for Foden in those roles. And you're in a weird situation now where it's like, if Rodri's not available for the cup final, does he just play Foden and Bernardo centrally and just free roll with it? I don't know.
Yeah, there's as much as that is good fun, Dan. Get Foden around the box and have him popping back heel assists through. That works for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was beautiful, that, wasn't it? It was a very old-fashioned back heel, I thought, as well. It's you could imagine like Stanley Matthews doing that on like Pathé News or something, you know, like back in the. Did
you think it was one of them where, like, you see it in amateur games where basically because amateur players are not very good, we all go. We basically say to everyone, "Okay, everyone, I'm about to back heel it now."
Yeah, telegraphed, wasn't it? Very much so. Yeah, and a very nice finish from Semenyo as well, who had one of his better games last night as well. Yeah, it was great to watch Foden. You know, there's few things more enjoyable than that, like I said. And I wonder as well if maybe the contract situation that's been sorted out now has given him a bit of confidence and a bit of a show of faith from the club that he was perhaps lacking, and now he feels like he belongs here and his future is here, and long may it continue.
Yeah, Dom, you talked about him being in the kind of taking responsibility as such against Palace. One thing I did notice, he was demanding the ball a lot more. And I think you spoke about after the Southampton game, you felt he was shirking away from it a little bit and kind of deferring responsibility.
Yeah, a little bit. There's a bit in that Southampton game where, nothing happened in the end, but I remember it quite vividly before half-time. He got the ball around halfway where he was in that sort of De Bruyne breaking thing. He could drive at a team, and he sort of just let Kovacic have the ball. And it's like, come on, you've got to take that by the scruff a bit. And to be fair, I think I know there's like people always put together clips of particularly when he's played for England, and how he's always demanding the ball and always making runs, and he never gets it. I guess if he's playing a bit deeper, he's more likely to be taken up on as an option. I'm not saying it's the long-term solution, but for now, for the question of winning a couple of games over the next week or so of the season, Rodri's in that terrible position of, we'll see, he's better. I mean, Guardiola's injury updates are just class. He's better. Does that mean he's fit? No. Anyway. Rodri's not fit last night. The backup holding midfielder, Nico Gonzalez, doesn't make the squad. So, why not? Why not just keep playing him and Bernardo in there? I mean, I enjoyed it.
You see stats pop up all the time about clubs and players, and you want to know that exact thing about City. There's an answer. Statscity.co.uk. Want to find out all of the players who played alongside club legends like David Silva, Sergio Aguero or Vincent Kompany? Or maybe you'd like to know which team found it hardest to score past Joe Hart. You can find out City's record in every competition, at every stadium, and under every manager. Just go to statscity.co.uk and browse away. That's statscity.co.uk.
Please give us your backing. Patreon.com/Blue Moon Podcast.
Well, let's look a little bit further forward to the goal scorers. I've just gone basically in chronological order here because, Dan, Jeremy Doku, for some reason, can't help but score bangers at the moment. He just seems to get into positions and go, yeah, I'll just pop this one in the top corner. Left foot, right foot, doesn't really matter.
Yeah, he's got that R1 and circle finish nailed down, hasn't he, now?
You've just alienated all the Xbox players there.
Fuck them. I saw a weird tweet that someone had said, a very strange take that I thought this morning, where they were saying that it was like against Palace, it was the most balanced the attack had looked for a while, basically because Doku wasn't playing and because everything is kind of funneled through Doku when he plays. He has this tendency to sort of take the ball, do the little swivelly hips thing, and we are very one-dimensional when he plays, to be fair. But I think that's such a strange take because of how important he's been and how well he's been playing for City recently. Like, I honestly think he's in the sort of top 3, 4, 5 players in the world at the moment on current form. Like, the way that he drives at opposition fullbacks, over and over and over again. It's just insane. I don't think I've ever seen a winger quite like it, really. The fact that he's starting to now contribute some goals is amazing, and like you said, incredible finishes as well. They're not just like sort of tap-ins or average goals. And also, the way that he's getting to the byline and pulling it back and people aren't getting on the end of his crosses is getting very, very frustrating. Like, it seems like he's sort of putting it in the same kind of place every single time around the penalty spot often, and people just aren't seeming, Haaland in particular isn't reading that run or reading that movement. So I'd like to think that he'll start getting a few assists as well soon, that will sort of come together a little bit. But yeah, I think he's on fire at the moment, and I would definitely have him, starting at the weekend.
Where do you sit on that, Dan? Because I spent a long time going, look, Doku needs to do better to find the players in the middle. And over the course of this season, probably since August, I've very slowly got to the point now where I've flipped entirely the other way around. And I'm very much in the camp of, look, Doku's doing everything. Can somebody just get on the end of it, please?
Yeah, I don't know, with Haaland, I don't want to just blame him completely, because obviously there's other players that could be getting on the end of chances, but he does seem to have a tendency to sort of drift very close to the sort of goal line, basically, when Doku gets into those positions. It's like he's never going to find you there, mate. Like, there's players in between you. The goalkeeper can claim it there. Like, you just got to hang back a little bit. Maybe someone else makes the run to the near post or something that could potentially get on the end of it. But Haaland should just be lingering around the penalty spot pretty much every time. Yeah, he's going to be marked sometimes, but that's going to take players away, and cause a bit of an opening for someone else potentially. So yeah, I think Doku, his crosses haven't been perfect, and I don't think he's the only one that has that problem. I think we sort of tend to cross without intention sometimes. You just kind of get to the byline and just knock it in and just hope someone's getting there. And it's like, if you just take a second, have a look up, you probably find a teammate more often than not. But I feel like Doku's getting better at that, and I think the other players need to sort of rise to his level at this point.
Yeah. Speaking of Haaland, Dom, is there a player anywhere in world football that loves a bundled finish more than him?
Yeah, I mean, as an observer, I love a bundled finish. It's great, and I guess if you are that massive, the bundle equation is always going to be in your favour, and you're just going to take people with you. It's funny because I thought at real time in the stadium he'd trod on the ball, but actually it's quite a nice back heel finish.
Yeah, it's quite well done, isn't it?
That's the thing with Haaland, isn't it? Because of the dimensions of the man. Even sometimes when he does a skillful thing, it looks like he's done something clumsy. But you watch it slow down, it's like, oh, that's really, really quite well taken.
I also think his posture does something for that, because he's a bit round-shouldered. It kind of looks a bit clumsy and all over the place.
I mean, his best bundle finish was that one at Stamford Bridge, wasn't it?
I knew you were going to say that.
Hesitate to say he scored it with the old Humber Bridge. Don't know how that reference. Don't know how that reference travels. But anyway.
Yeah. 2-2 for Marmoush as well, Dom. Both very similar goals. When I watched them back, I didn't realise just how much both of them seemed to, both of them contained a turn and then blast finish into the bottom corner across the goalkeeper from the right-hand side.
Yeah, I thought the finish against Brentford was really nice. I mean, I think it's a criticism of Marmoush that, I mean, I enjoy people blamming a football really hard as much as the next man, but there does, and with Marmoush he scored a few screamers, hasn't he? But there's a case of sometimes his finishing maybe lacks a bit of finesse, and he just blasts it. I thought the Brentford finish was really nice. The Palace one, it seemed like it took an age for the ball to come down for him, and he did just have a bit of a swipe at it, and fine, it all worked out. But it's been a tough all season for him, hasn't it? Really, because he had a ill-timed injury, and when he was out injured, that was around the time when Doku sort of nailed down that place as playing as a left-sided attacker, but a bit narrow, probably the sort of areas Marmoush would always love to be in. And then it's been a case of any time he plays, it's, if he doesn't score, it's what's this guy here for? I don't know. I mean, who knows what's going to happen in the summer? I think if you were in the Omar Marmoush business, you might be looking to see if there are any takers, because I think particularly with Doku's form and Semenyo's arrival makes the path to any sort of regular starting look pretty tricky for me. But it's been. I know people have made a lot about how City have had sort of negligible impact from their subs and people off the bench this season. I know we started on Wednesday night, but it's good that he looks at least a bit sharper, and if who knows, if it ends up being a massive goal difference chase on the final day, he can get himself in the mix.
Yeah. What? If Omar Marmoush was a business, what would he specialise in?
Mobile phones.
Alan says he's always on the phone.
Yeah. I was viewing him as a business himself, as a modern day footballer, which is probably a ghastly way of viewing it. But I'm sure there are people who do very well out of Omar Marmoush, and all top level footballers. I'm not singling his agents out as leeches. I think to go back to Foden, it's like, do you know what? Never thought I'd hear myself say this. Can we hear it for the super agents? Sorting things out.
Yeah. Dan, you said that you felt Semenyo had his best game for a while. He has had a dip in the last few weeks, but you kind of take that finish against Palace, and he makes a nice run. He gets into a nice position and finishes it off. But there was a number of times in that second half where if he'd just taken the ball down, he'd have had another chance to shoot.
Yeah, the first touch is a problem, isn't it? There was one moment last night where he controlled the ball really well, brought it out of the air, and then his second touch was shit and he lost it, and it was just a bit frustrating. And you kind of wonder. I mean, I was so enthused about the signing when he came in. Still think he's got a lot of potential, and next season could be a really, really good player for City, and has obviously had a pretty good impact already. Scored quite a lot of goals already, but sometimes the way that he plays, he kind of sticks out like a bit of a sore thumb in this team, and just the way that he loses possession sometimes and in kind of stupid ways. What I kind of wonder if what brought the best out of him against Palace was that Doku wasn't there. I don't think the right wing suits Semenyo perfectly well. I think maybe he probably would be better off on that Doku position coming in off the left, and it felt like he had a bit more of a free role against Palace. He seemed to be sort of all over the front line at times and popping up in different areas, and for his goal was basically playing as a centre forward. And when he first joined, he was kind of playing in that kind of like up top with Haaland position, wasn't he, that Pep's rode back on. So I wonder if it's just a case of him not being suited to the right wing that has been a bit of a problem in recent weeks. But I think with him, you're always going to get a lot of energy and kind of dynamism. I thought his run for the second goal against Brentford was really good. The way he drove into the box and set that up. So, yeah, I don't think he's far from City's biggest problem, Semenyo. I just would like to see a little bit more from him. I just wonder if at 26, can you coach a player to have a good first touch, or is it sort of is it gone by then? Have you lost?
This is what you're working with.
Yeah.
Dan, this sounds like you don't love Semenyo just the way you are.
No, I don't.
How about Savinho then, Dom? Because I mean, fair play, decent finish, but then the second attempt at that same finish resulted in him lay prone on his back, needing to stretch out his hamstrings.
Yeah, I mean, obviously he's not had the best week, has he? He's at best the 56th best player from Brazil.
Well, I was going to see. I wasn't going to bring this up, but since you have, I just wondered, how many of the Brazil squad could you two name that doesn't include Savinho? Because there's 55 players there.
Yeah, it's bizarre. And Glauber Bertie's on the list, isn't he? I don't know. So yeah, Savinho last night was fine. I thought he was pretty bright second half, and then he scored the goal, and I think we can all sympathise with, you've done something cool when you're playing football, you try and do it again and make an arse of it. That's fine. It's a humanising moment for him.
Not the worst shot of the evening though, as Mark Gahey volleyed one out for a throw-in in the first half.
Yeah, do you know? I do wonder, does he do that against any other team? I thought there was a fair bit of Palace, because obviously he only left them in January, they all know him. And I was right from kickoff, Mateta went and sort of ran straight into him, a bit like the Simpsons thing, the one with Stampy the Elephant, they all stopped doing that, Mr. Simpson, just burrowed into the side of him. And I think there was a fair bit of they seem to be letting him have the ball a lot. Fine, you having it, Mark. Yeah, I honestly, I'm not sure Mark Gahey does that against any other team. But yeah, very funny. But yeah, Savinho was all right. I don't want to damn with faint praise here. It's he didn't make anything go wrong, which sometimes he can do that. it was maybe better for him that a lot of the attacks went down the left-hand side. But when he was involved, he was tidy enough. He was bright in the second half, I thought. I don't think Carlo Ancelotti's ruined his decision.
With Savino, I was thinking going into the season that last season, all right, he wasn't great, wasn't contributing many goals and stuff like that, but I felt like he was just on the precipice of being like a really good player. And I thought this season he was going to have like a breakout season and really sort of take off. And I think over the course of the season he's regressed, and I kind of wonder if he'll ever actually make it at City at this point. I don't know if you get that feeling as well. Like I can't imagine him being consistently good. I'm not really entirely sure what he's good at completely. So yeah, I could maybe see them moving him on in the summer because I don't really see the point of him long term.
Yeah, if only Spurs might come back with another offer this summer, then
the Championship.
Maybe. Yeah, we may see it. Right then, well, tickets are now available for this year's end of season live podcast. It's taking place at Idle Hands on Dale Street in Manchester's Northern Quarter on Tuesday the 26th of May, starting at 8 o'clock. Doors are opening at around 7:45, and the former City manager Brian Horton will be our guest. Tickets are £5, and all the profits will be going to the Man City Fans Food Bank support group, and you can get them now by going to tickets.bluemoonpodcast.com. Dom, I realise as I asked this question that I haven't officially confirmed with you that you will be on the panel, but you are going to be there, are you?
So I believe, yeah. That's the plan. Really look forward to it. For full disclosure, it will be my plan to try and hijack the night. So we just talked to Brian Horton about City 5, Tottenham 2 from 1994, which is like one of the greatest games ever.
I did wonder in the Q&A bit at the end if that might come up at some point, you know?
Yeah, I kind of... Let's just talk about that and Maurizio Gaudino and whether Cherries better than him or not. It could... obviously, we could be talking about... We could be talking about a domestic treble that night, Dave. No. But realistically, we could be talking about a couple of trophies.
Or one trophy, who knows?
Or one, which, well, let's face it, when Brian Hort was manager, that was a mad one. But, yeah, I wouldn't be opposed to it becoming a big nostalgia fest. I think the City got to the quarterfinals of the League Cup under Horton and lost 4-0 to Crystal Palace. Steve Lomas swallowed his tongue. I mean, he didn't, not like just of his own volition, he got like smashed in the head. But anyway, that, as you can see, my memory of that is sketchy because I was 8. But we can clarify all this with Brian.
Be a good night.
And maybe talk about Manchester City in 2026, whatever.
Yeah, who knows? Dan, you're refusing to fly over from Germany for it, so no commitment whatsoever from you.
Well, I demanded that you cough up for a business class flight, but you said it's only a 2-hour flight and they don't exist. And then you wouldn't stump up for a Ryanair flight either. So what's a girl to do, really, I suppose? Yeah. But yeah, I am gutted, actually, because I love Brian Horton. His tweets make me think there's hope for humanity yet.
Yes.
Yeah, he's
bloody
so
lovely,
positive about everything, isn't he? He's just a lovely man. Yeah, absolutely.
Every club he's played for, he had a fantastic time, and they've got fantastic fans, and yeah, he's just pure.
Yeah, lovely fellow.
He must go well on the end of the season podcast, sir. Because he's able to always. But yeah, there's a lot of dignity, and it's really nice, and we might bring him down to our level. Who knows? Maybe Dan could bring Maurizio Gaudino over from Germany, and you can pay for that.
I tell you what, can you imagine after all of this if Dan goes, yeah, I tracked him down and he's here tonight? Well, I can promise that isn't going to happen, but if you'd like to be there and enjoy the fun anyway, that's Tuesday the 26th of May at Idle Hands in Manchester, starting at 8 o'clock, and tickets are £5 from tickets.bluemoonpodcast.com.
This is the Blue Moon Podcast, and we're very sorry about that.
Saturday will mark City's 15th appearance in the FA Cup final, and it's the first time in the competition's history that any team has reached the final for 4 seasons in a row. Sam Rosbottom's here, and he's taken us through some other interesting tidbits from the FA Cup finals of years gone by.
Let's begin with a stat that is one in the eye for those who like to say that City have no history. The 119 years between City's first FA Cup final win in 1904 and their most recent in 2023 is longer than any other team's spell of success in the competition. That victory over Manchester United 3 years ago also features the fastest ever FA Cup final goal, scored by Ilkay Gundogan after just 13 seconds. Pep Guardiola was obviously asked about it afterwards.
The manager is a genius, you know that? And I said, guys, Stefan, put the ball to Erling, flick the ball, and please, in the first touch, put the ball to the net. So that it was a strategy. We put the ball, but it's just to put pressure, not to score a goal. But sometimes football, it happens.
That was the first Manchester Derby FA Cup final. So City have the honour of winning that. And in doing so, they also became the only team to lift the FA Cup in the month of June. And when researching this item, Mooney discovered something else about that game too.
Manchester United are the team that have lost the most FA Cup finals. They've lost 9 of them. Chelsea and Everton have lost 8. And it's the defeat to City in 2023 that gave United that record. So in 2023, not only did City stop United from being the only English side that had won a treble by winning one themselves, they also made United the team that had lost the most FA Cup finals as well. And weirdly, they'll do the same to Chelsea if they win this weekend, because that will put Chelsea on 9 defeats in the FA Cup final as well.
2023 was Guardiola's second FA Cup final win, and the first was also one for the history books too. In 2019 they beat Watford 6-0, equalling the biggest scoreline in an FA Cup final, set by Bury against Derby County more than a century earlier.
We keep the energy for the right moment, the right time, and of course Eddie saved the first action. The game could have been different, but after the 2-0 and special 3-0, the game was completely different and it was over.
It's the biggest margin of victory in an FA Cup final since 1903. I mean, does that make a difference to you? I mean, it's an achievement nonetheless.
Here is win the title. So at the end, after 3-0, they want to attack more. They put more people in front, especially with Kevin came in, changed the game. Here it was win the title. The fact that 6-0 is because the game was completely different than the beginning.
City's last final appearance before beating Watford also broke a record. Wigan were the first team in history to win the FA Cup and get relegated in the same season. And it was City they got the better of in the final. Sorry for having to bring that up. The captain that day, Vincent Kompany, spoke about the game to The Overlap on Sky Sports.
Do you know what? That one hurts me more than losing the Champions League semi-final to Real Madrid, because it's an easy one. Do you know, it should be on paper.
What happened that day?
Roberto had a team and he got them going and they were well set up, and we were at the end of a story with our team, you know, that the relationships were... It was a bit of a drain, and then he needed a reboot, and we got into that game thinking it was already done before we played it, and we got punished. That was a painful one.
That was a difficult day for the fans, because it emerged it would be Roberto Mancini's last match as City manager. He'd ended the club's 35-year wait for a trophy by winning against Stoke in 2011. Here's what he said to the media after that 1-0 FA Cup final victory.
We deserved to win this game, and we beat United in the semi-final. We deserve to beat Stoke because we played very well. I think that we deserve to score 1-2 goals in the first half, but Sorensen was fantastic.
That was Stoke's only appearance in the FA Cup final. City, along with United, are the team that have won the most finals against teams that have never lifted the trophy. In City's case, they've beaten Watford in 2019, Stoke in 2011, and Birmingham in 1956. Watford and Birmingham have been runners-up twice. That Birmingham final was the famous Bert Trautmann game too. Here's the legendary goalkeeper speaking about breaking his neck that afternoon in a documentary about his career posted on YouTube.
It was like a fog in front of my eyes. Everything was grey. I could only see the outside, you know, I could see people. There was no body in them, you know, like ghosts, so to speak. And I carried on playing, not because I said so, I just carried on.
Going back even further, City were the runners-up in the last FA Cup final before Abide With Me was sung ahead of kick-off. That was before their 1926 defeat to Bolton. Abide With Me was introduced in 1927. And City's next appearance, when they lost 3-0 to Everton, was the first final where shirt numbers were worn. Everton wore 1 to 11 and City wore 12 to 22. After the game, Everton captain Dixie Dean and City captain Sam Cohen gave a joint toast recorded by British Pathé.
Here's to Lancashire, and may that cup stay in Lancashire. If Everton don't win it, may another Lancashire club win it.
I'll second that, Dixie. We've got the cup in Lancashire now, and I hope the next Lancashire club that wins it is Manchester City, my club. Here's to Lancashire.
City were the team next to win it, beating Portsmouth the following season. Let's get some more of City's FA Cup final quirks now, and who better than David Mooney again.
City are the team with the most balanced record for the most appearances in the final. They've won 7 and they've lost 7 of their FA Cup finals. That'll obviously change this weekend when they either win or lose against Chelsea, but no team has made as many appearances in the final as City have, whilst also having a balanced record like that. And weirdly, City are the team that have won the most FA Cup finals without needing extra time or penalties to win them. Spurs, Liverpool, Chelsea, United and Arsenal have all won more finals than City have, but they've all needed extra time or penalties at some point in their wins. City have got 7 wins, all of them coming in normal time.
City have never needed a replay to win an FA Cup final either. They did, however, lose the first FA Cup final replay that was held at Wembley, a defeat to Spurs in 1981. Previously, if the final ended level, it was replayed at a different venue.
Now, ask the general public about the 81 Cup final, and most of them will talk to you about Ricky Villa. Ask City fans, and they might tell you about Tommy Hutchison, who scored at both ends in the first game before it went to a replay. That one finished 1-1, and Hutchison got both goals. He put City in front first off, and then deflected Glenn Hoddle's free kick into the goal to make it 1-1 later in the game. Now, he's not the first player to score at both ends in an FA Cup final. That's Bert Turner of Charlton Athletic, who did it in 1946. He scored an own goal first and then equalised with a free kick actually a minute later. For Hutchison, he's the first player who scored at the right end first, so his own goal was the equaliser. But I don't suppose that makes it a much better honour, to be honest.
On Saturday, City will become the first team to appear in the FA Cup final 4 times in a row. Having finished runners-up in the last 2, you can at least take comfort in the knowledge that even if the day doesn't go to plan, City won't break the record for most consecutive finals lost. Chelsea lost 3 in a row between 2020 and 2022. If City don't win this weekend, at least they only equal that record and not beat it.
Hi, my name is Uwe Rössler, former Manchester City player. You listen to the Blue Moon podcast.
This is the Blue Moon podcast. Listen to it, drink it in.
Sam Rosbottom there. Dom, what clues can we take then from Guardiola's selections this week about what we're going to expect on Saturday and for the game against Bournemouth? Because, as Dan mentioned before, he's had that kind of trusted 11 that he was going with and absolutely rinsing. And then they all got shattered and he had to make a few changes. But if he kind of rinses the same team time and again over the next few games, then obviously there's fatigue elements to come into this that puts the games in jeopardy. If he rotates them, that puts the games in jeopardy. And in the middle of all this, if Arsenal somehow drop points to Burnley on Monday night, suddenly they might find themselves back in a title race again.
I think there is more chance of Dan bringing Maurizio Gaudino to the podcast than Arsenal dropping points to Burnley, first of all. I was quite relieved by the Palace team sheet. Get up. I was quite relieved by the Palace team sheet because I did sort of think he might be going, the Premier League's a priority, the Premier League's still live, and I thought he would rinse the same team again, and then we might get a bit of a funky lineup against Chelsea in the cup final. I'm glad Guardiola has done, uncharacteristically I think, done the sensible, boring, normal take of the FA Cup's the one that's winnable. Do that. And a season where you win both domestic cups is not to be sniffed at. I think I heard that the Football Ramble called it the dickhead double for some reason a while ago, which I don't really get the origin of the joke, but it did make me laugh because I'm juvenile. But yeah, get that done, and that's fine. So yeah, I think the Chelsea team will look a lot like that main 11, and then I guess Bournemouth will be a case of who's ready to go again. And the Bournemouth game, the positioning of it is awful, like just like so soon after the cup final. But then I guess there is an element of there's quite a big rest before Villa. But yeah, the sense that he's prioritising the FA Cup final, I mean, that shouldn't have to even be a thing you worry about, but I wasn't sure what Pep might do, and I think it bodes well.
Yeah, there is the other question, Dan, of who is the main 11 now, because as we talked about earlier, Foden, for instance, might have a real good case to be in it, and I don't know, even someone like Ryan Cherky, who did well when he came off the bench, but like I know a few people who said things like, well, I'm quite happy to see him drop out of the team for this one against Palace, because he's not been that effective in the last few games.
Yeah, I thought he was poor against Brentford at the weekend, but I thought he looked a bit spent, basically. I think he's perhaps not used to playing quite as much football as he has done this season. The game's sort of coming thick and fast, and that kind of caught up with him a little bit, and I wonder if just having a little bit of a rest against Palace and then coming into the game later on. I thought he was fantastic when he came on, actually. I thought he was really entertaining. He had that sort of spark back, that was missing in perhaps the last couple of games. Against Everton, he was poor as well, I think. So hopefully that will that's kind of reset him a little bit, and I'd put him straight back in the team. I wonder if maybe Semenyo drops out, having played quite a lot of games recently, and maybe Pep goes with Foden on the wing for the final. And another player that we've not spoken about, by the way, is Guardiola. Like, have you ever seen a player come back from such a lengthy injury and just look as fresh as he did against Palace? It was incredible. Like,
well, can he come back in for the final again? Given basically it's a midweek game ahead of the final, he's just come back from a fucking broken leg and he's played an hour.
Yeah, I mean, maybe, yeah. And the position that he was playing was, I mean, it was sort of him and Anaik Nouri like doubling up on the left wing. I don't see him doing that in the final, or potentially might do that at Bournemouth next week, but that was really interesting as well. And, there was a bit of, around the time, I think, of the win over Arsenal, people were sort of saying, Gahey and Kusanov have been so solid, like, how does Guardiola get back into this team? I was like, he walks back into this team. I think he's, top quality, but then there's Nico O'Reilly. He's got to slot him in. Ruben Dias might be back soon as well, so he's got to slot in. If Rodri comes back, that obviously changes the midfield. I fear for Nico Gonzalez a little bit at this point, having not played particularly well against Everton and not been trusted to play in the last couple of games at all. I think that's a bit harsh considering the contributions that he's made this season, but I think Pep's just a bit unconvinced by him still. And
it was the comments afterwards as well, where he's not even made the squad, and Pep's basically gone, well, I've got to leave somebody out, and it's like, well, yeah, but he's the only recognised holding midfielder in the squad that isn't Rodri.
Yeah. But I think for the final, it's just got to be the best team that Pep can think of. He puts that out, and we just go for it, because we've lost the last 2 FA Cup finals. Don't want to lose a third one. It is the most realistic chance of another trophy this season now. I think the league is pretty much gone, but I want them to fight for it until the bitter end. But I think they've got the squad to fight for that and go to Bournemouth next week and put out a decent team. But I think just go balls out the bath against Chelsea, basically, and go for it.
Balls out the bath.
I think that's Alan Partridge, yeah.
So I was expecting like balls to the wall or something like that, and suddenly got balls out of the bath, yeah.
Well, talking of balls, do you think John Stones will start?
Well, this is the other thing, because obviously there's the other argument, Dom, of the players that have got City there, and John Stones, Nathan Ake, these are players that have come in for the rotated teams and done really well when they've been in there.
Yeah, I mean, for all I said, that I'm really glad he's going to prioritise the cup final. The sentimentalist in me would really like Stones to be able to start, whether that's alongside, maybe alongside Kusanov. Obviously, Trafford he's been great in the cups. To say one thing that had passed my attention altogether is I used to assume Nathan Ake was another one who was out of contract in the summer, but he's got another year left, hasn't he?
Yeah.
So that's a bit of a strange one. But yeah, I think I would like Stones to start, mainly because it wouldn't feel like it'd be totally charity. It would be like he's helped get them there and played well, like Trafford has in that. But yeah, this is the thing with Stones is, obviously it's so unfortunate he's had so much time out injured, but certainly over the last couple of years, whenever he's been fit, he's kind of, you plug him in and he plays and he goes and he's great. So yeah, I'd like Stones to start.
Yeah. How about the centre of midfield then, Dan? Because obviously the Nico Gonzalez thing is the big elephant in the room that he didn't play. And obviously Guardiola spoke afterwards, is Rodri going to be available for the final? His answer, don't know. So again, injury cleared everything up there for on the injury team news front. Like if he doesn't pick Foden and Bernardo as the midfield two, is there a place for Kovacic in there maybe?
Possibly, yeah. I've never been convinced by Kovacic in that position though, really. Like, I think he's had some decent moments in recent weeks when he's come off the bench and played the through ball for Haaland against Everton, and he tried a couple of them against Palace as well. But I think when he's running back towards his own goal, he's really poor. He just gets very easily overrun in midfield. Would probably need to be alongside Bernardo. Yeah, I don't see him starting against in the cup final. I would, yeah. If Rodri's not available, I would go with this Bernardo Foden double pivot and just see what happens. I think it's worked pretty well in the last couple of games. Like let's see where it goes.
Yeah,
Bernardo Foden Cherky is a midfield three. But I guess though, if you're playing Núñez and O'Reilly as fullbacks who can kind of are big and physical and are of course midfielders, they can sort of muck in a bit there. Semenyo is, for all that he needed his goal last night because they're dried up and some of his touches maybe lack a bit of finesse, he's dead good out of possession and works really hard. Doku's come on leaps and bounds. So do you sort of think that is there maybe enough physicality in the team that means you could get away with Bernardo Foden and Cherky? Maybe. I was trying. Obviously, with Chelsea, they've got Caicedo is like a bit. It can be a bit of a dominating box to box guy. But
I mean, Rodri usually sort of takes him for a walk, doesn't he? When we play Chelsea, and that could be interesting if Rodri's not there to see how if he can be a bit more influential on the game.
I guess this is maybe you getting it's the sort of the Pep pill take. But if you just play all those guys, it's like, well, when are they going to get the ball? And it's not like Chelsea are a team who are used to having 25% possession. You could really sort of make it an awful grind for them.
Yeah, a couple of thoughts though, Dom, as well. Guardiola versus interim managers. That's been a theme of this season. Also, 2 wins in the last 11 for Chelsea, both of them in the FA Cup, with the draw at Anfield last weekend, the only time they've not lost in the league since the 4th of March. And yet somehow we already know that the Chelsea that turns up on Saturday isn't going to be the shambolic one that's been playing for the last 6-8 weeks, is it?
Well, maybe, but it's also the Mick McCarthy gif, isn't it? It can carry on like that. They're a mess. Do you know when Chelsea's last win over City was?
It was probably the Champions League final.
It was the Champions League final.
Yeah, so like for the big occasion.
And here we all are advocating a team with no holding midfielder. So, yeah.
It's all come full circle, hasn't it?
Ad-free episodes are available on Patreon. Sign up at patreon.com/Blue Moon Podcast.
We'll do predictions shortly, but first let's get a view from the Vitality Stadium. I've been speaking to the journalist and Bournemouth fan Robert Santonna, starting with how they're unbeaten since the beginning of January.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that's really anything that sort of any Bournemouth fan could have predicted. Obviously, you'll know him well, losing Antoine Semenyo in January. We haven't lost a game since he left the club in the Premier League, so I mean, all signs point to the fact it's going to be hopefully a good end to the season, but there's definitely 2 tough games still to come.
Yeah, what's been the mood of this season? Because looking at the table, currently sat in 6th, and with real hope of European football for next season. So, like how's this season been?
I think it's been largely positive, but there has been sort of down moments, as probably with most clubs, unless you're sort of fighting right at the top of the league. But yeah, I think it's been a bit up and down. We sort of went on quite a barren spell at one point in the season, but of course we started the season superbly, went top of the league for all of a couple of minutes back in sort of October. I remember saying to you, sort of for the reverse fixture, I thought Europe would be the aim. We went on a dip, and now 16 odd games unbeaten, and now I'm back saying we could potentially be looking at European football. So I suppose it's sort of a great end to the season potentially. Just got to get over the line now, really.
Yeah, and just looking at it as well, with Villa in a European final and seemingly having rested players in Premier League games, and like with them kind of sitting 4 points ahead of you, are they catchable?
I think it's definitely doable. I think on the run of form that we're in, and with the confidence that seems to be in the group right now, I mean, I didn't go to Fulham, but I was there for the Crystal Palace game, and I know Palace put out a second string side, really, but the confidence, everything's clicking, everything seems to be going Bournemouth's way for the first time in what feels like forever. So I definitely think, City have shown that they're beatable. It's always going to be a tougher game than, probably 18, 19 other Premier League teams. And then you go to Forest final day, where their season's they're not really playing for much now, if anything. So yeah, I mean, they're definitely more than catchable.
Yeah, and now you mentioned this game Tuesday night, and there's so much in the air from a City side on this one. Let's say best case scenario for City happens and Burnley get something at the Emirates on the Monday night, as unlikely as that may be. How do you feel about this one? Because this is also Iraola's last home game.
Yeah, I mean, there are pretty much storylines everywhere you look in this game. Iraola's last home game, Semenyo's return to the Vitality. A win could see us right in the driver's seat for Champions League football. A loss could see us a tight final day against Forest, I think, and the same ramifications for City depending on Arsenal's results as well. So it definitely sets up to be an intense game with probably minute by minute your expectations will change for the rest of the season, really.
Yeah, what's been the kind of thinking around Iraola? Because that announcement was made a few months ago now, wasn't it? That he'd be leaving at the end of the season. And I wonder if that announcement was made a little bit prematurely, if he didn't know where Bournemouth were going to finish this season.
Yeah, I think it's hindsight is a wonderful thing, I suppose, from Iraola's perspective. Potentially, he might not have foreseen that having sold 5 of our star players, that we could be a European contending side. But I suppose if you were to look at the owner's philosophy and the philosophy of the recruitment, it's always Europe was the aim within 5 years. That's what Bill Foley said when he first came into the club, and we're on track to do that. Whether we now know that it's not going to be Iraola in charge of us, but he certainly played arguably one of the biggest parts of all sort of cogs in the Bournemouth wheel. But yeah, it's an interesting decision, but one which once again I think we'll see what Marco Rosa's all about. But if it goes as well as a lot of people think it potentially could, the Bournemouth recruitment team can only be hailed once again, because currently we almost have 2 managers working for us. We have a manager finishing out this season, and we have a manager that's known his job for a month or so, planning on recruitment, planning on squad depth, planning on pre-season. So we're in a fairly good spot, but of course, who knows where we'll be come the start of next season.
Is there no chance that he might U-turn? Might he change his mind and stay on?
I think given Rosa's confirmed, I think it's unlikely. My sort of question to Iraola would be, what was his sort of thinking in terms of what he perceived his next job to be? Because obviously, we've seen the links to Crystal Palace. I think that would be, obviously they've won trophies, FA Cup, and they're in European football, but it would seem like a lot of hassle to really make what would be a sideways move at best. The Man United job looks like it's not going to be available to him. The Chelsea job looks like it's a straight shootout between him and Xabi Alonso. And you look beyond that, there isn't a whole lot else out there. Even the Bilbao job that he obviously is, a legend over at Bilbao, they'd have probably welcomed him back with open arms, but they've gone for Terzic. So his options are limited. We'll see where it goes post-World Cup. But yeah, it's certainly going to be a strange summer, I suppose, for him.
Yeah, have the team played any differently since the announcement that he's going, or has it been basically steady and everything's been as normal?
I think you can look at it from a few ways that are positive, really. I mean, you look at it from a player perspective, you're not only playing to give the manager, for a lot of these players, the manager they signed for the club for, to give him a great send-off and leave on a high of an unbelievable achievement. And then you can also look at all the players who are playing for places next year. They're all playing for, who is going to be Marco Rosa's first 11, who's going to be his favourite players to use week in, week out. It's all up for grabs. And obviously having European football would mean squad depth has to be bigger. So players know that players are going to have to come in to bolster the squad. So yeah, I think it is a best of both worlds at the minute. We'll see how that develops though for now.
Yeah. Now, City lost at the Vitality last season in the league, and then had a really tough game in the FA Cup there. I don't think there's any City fan looking at this one thinking this one's going to be a stroll in the park. Certainly, so close to the FA Cup final. Who's playing well at the minute? If Bournemouth are going to get something out of this one again this season, who's going to be the players that do it?
Yeah, I suppose Ryan has got 3 goals in his last 3 games. He seems to be. Since he's come over for the Brazilian league, you bring in this 19-year-old that's sort of built like Adriano. It's just unbelievably built for the Premier League. He'll probably be a player to watch. Alex Scott is sort of still playing for a place on the plane for the World Cup. I think it's unlikely, but you never know where we're going to sit in 2 games' time. So he's got more than enough to play for. You'd have to say, Truffert has been brilliant recently, and he'll have to have a good game against Semenyo if Semenyo is going to play out on the right, or if he's going to be deployed through the middle. We'll see. But whoever Semenyo is up against will be a really interesting battle. I'm thoroughly looking forward to watching that.
Yeah, where are you most worried about in the team at the minute? Where feels weakest?
Yeah, I would say, to be fair, we've scored a lot of goals, but also I think we miss a lot of chances. So if, say, Evan Nilsson is having an off game and it's not quite clicking for him, and if Krupi can't, say, deal with the physicality that we've seen Kusanov and Gahey can bring, that could potentially be a problem. Obviously, as I've mentioned, Ryan, if he can provide goals from width, then that sort of solves it. But creating chances within the box, then taking them, I think that'll be certainly one to watch.
Yeah. Now, as we said before, currently in 6th, which is at the moment a Europa League place, but there is a chance that could be a Champions League place. How do you see the end of this season going with European football? Like for a club that has never been into European football before, like Conference League, Europa League, Champions League, all of them on the table with 2 games to go. Just like how are you feeling about it all? How excited are you?
Yeah, they're really. It's not a position the club has ever been in before. So I think it's, at the minute, everyone's trying to compose their thoughts and just see where the chips fall come full time against Nottingham Forest. But, there's a world where Bournemouth could be a Champions League side next year, which, is mental even when you look at the stature of the club. But when you look at the players that we've sold as well, we've sold all of our star players, essentially. We've had to develop new ones, sign new ones. And for us to actually end up in a better position, considering what everyone said probably over the summer that they're not going to be able to sustain any sort of European push. We'll have to see where the emotions lie after the final game. But for now, the prospects of also keeping hold of players as well. I think we've got a lot of players where, had we not have been competing for European football, hopefully next year, that probably wouldn't be staying around. I couldn't have seen Alex Scott, for example, staying. Of course, we don't know that for sure, but what it means for the club, both on and off the pitch, is astonishing, really.
Yeah. Excited, nervous, stressed? How are you feeling?
Yeah, I think, to be honest, if you'd have said once we went on that really poor run of form that you could be in the Conference League at the end of the season, I'd have bitten your hand off for it. But as things develop and you keep going and going and going, and you set your sights on, you could have Barcelona, Real Madrid coming to little old Dean Court on the south coast of England, you do start to dream a bit. But I do think, personally, I've tried to keep it under wraps as best as I can. We've got a bit of a curse with singing songs about the Champions League in the stands that has come back to bite us in the past. So I think we can't be overconfident. Of course, Manchester City is one of the toughest games. I know at home we've been all right, but yeah, and then Forest away again. We seem to be all right against Forest though, which is positive, but you just never know. So it's we'll see where everything falls come full time on the final day.
Yeah, well, City are coming off the back of the FA Cup final. You'll have had 10 days rest for Tuesday. How do you think the game's going to go? How do you think Iraola will approach it?
Yeah, I think it could be very similar to how we approached Crystal Palace, because obviously Palace had their European sort of Conference League game, and Iraola said in his post-match that the game plan, first 5-10 minutes, was just complete intensity, sort of try and bury them after 10 minutes. We scored 3 goals in the first half and sort of had the win wrapped up by half-time. Obviously, I don't think that's going to happen against City, but I would expect an intense start given City have just, as you say, come off the back of an FA Cup final. We've had the rest. Hopefully, everyone that really will make a difference will be fit and raring to go. So I would expect an intense first 20 minutes and then maybe a tense second half, depending on what's required, really.
Well, the charity bet's coming up, and thank God I don't have to predict this one. So over to you. What's your score prediction?
Yeah, I'm going to be optimistic. I'm thinking, unbeaten run is going to continue, and I think we're going to see a win. I'm going to go 2-1, and we're going to have Ryan, and I think Alex Scott is going to score, and the media are going to get back on the hype train to send him to the World Cup. And I can see Semenyo scoring for City. I think he left on a goal. I think he's going to return on a goal as well.
If you enjoy the show, please give it a rating and a review wherever you get your podcasts.
That was Robert Santonna. It's really difficult to preview this Bournemouth game, Dan, because I guess a lot of the kind of feeling going into it depends on how the game on Saturday goes, but also how Arsenal's game against Burnley's gone. If Arsenal have absolutely wiped the floor with Burnley, then this could just be a bit of a damp squib evening. But if it's gone all really tight against Burnley and Arsenal, even if Arsenal have won, but it's been a really tough battle for them to get over the line, there might be a bit more in this for City.
Yeah, I think Arsenal are going to win this weekend. There's absolutely no doubt about that in my mind. So I would like to think we can take this title race to the final day and just keep it interesting, put the pressure on them. But that Bournemouth game does look a bit dicey just in terms of the form that they're in. It's going to be Iraiola's last home game for them. They're a good side, and I just think it could be tricky coming off the cup final, having to rotate a little bit. There's a potential for drop points there. That said, if we turn up and we play well, we probably win, because I think if you sort of compare the two teams, we're obviously the better side. I always think that about City. It just depends what mood, what form City are in on the night, really. So I wouldn't be complete. A lot of people, I think, have sort of pinpointed this as the night that it all unravels, and it could well be. But it could also be one where we pull a result out and take it to the final day. That would be my hope, anyway.
How would you feel if it does? Basically, if they are able to win the cup on Saturday, if it all unravels on the Tuesday night, are you that arsed?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I would still like to. There's still a tiny part of me that thinks we're going to win the league this season. I don't know why. I don't. I know that the circumstances and the odds are kind of stacked against us at this point. Like Arsenal have got to beat relegated Burnley and Crystal Palace's reserves, and we saw Crystal Palace's first team weren't particularly good last night. So it looks like a pretty simple ask. Did you see
Guardiola on the pitch afterwards? He's been given an individual team talk to all of Palace's players. That might do the job.
Yeah,
maybe
that was class.
Yeah. So yeah, I would just like to think that if we can get it to the final day and just put a little bit of pressure on Arsenal, they could crumble. I think Gaz said in our WhatsApp group at the weekend, there's always a chance that Arsenal aren't going to score, and they know that, and it could go down to the final day and they just slip up and draw at Palace somehow or something, and we just snatch it. You'd just never know. So I'd just like to think that we can keep it going just until the final day and then keep it interesting.
Can you imagine what that was like for Chris Richards and Will Hughes, who've been chasing the ball around for 90 minutes, and Guardiola comes on dead intense? Can you imagine how much he said in those 5 seconds to them? What? That would just be mental. Yeah. What an experience.
Yeah. If City do manage to take it to the final day, Dom, could Guardiola's words have any impact to those players?
I mean, I doubt it. just all vibes, innit? It's hard to judge with Palace because they've obviously got the Conference League final, which you would expect they send out, the under-11s or whatever. They'll be within their rights to do that. Well, actually, they wouldn't. That would be illegal. The under-11s. And as you know, we're all sticklers for Premier League rules. But yeah, they didn't strike me as a team that I thought, well, that they're gonna pull one out of the bag against Arsenal. But you're away from home. Selhurst Park's got an atmosphere of its own. If there's any Arsenal nerves, if City can get to the point where they apply Arsenal nerves, there's a capacity for a bit of brouhaha, isn't there? But I can't really see it.
Yeah.
I mean, we had that situation. I saw someone comparing it to QPR and saying, look what QPR did to City that day. But it was a bit different because QPR were threatened by relegation, were fighting to stay up. But I think a better comparison is the Villa one a couple of years ago, where Villa had nothing to play for and still, went 2-0 up and were really, I think professionals have this kind of pride thing where they want to spoil the party for the other team. Also, some of those players might be trying to fight to get a place in the starting lineup of the Conference League and might have that as a bit of motivation. So I don't think it's completely cut and dry that Arsenal just go there and win easily on the last day.
Well, just two comparisons on that, again with QPR and Villa, because I wondered with the Villa game, Dan, if City just froze on that afternoon and then Villa took advantage, because City they'd been through the ringer that season. They were really running on fumes by the end of that. But also QPR, it was the first time City getting over the line and City trying it. And like the weight of expectation that day was that City turn up, beat QPR, and that I think was a big contributing factor. And Arsenal kind of have that. Like, if City managed to take it to the final day by beating Bournemouth, then Arsenal have that weight of expectation as well.
Yeah. Could well put the shitters up them.
Thinking in a manner of speaking. But back to 2012 again, though. Did Arsenal's game at West Ham last weekend, that felt a bit like their Newcastle away? And I know there's 2 games I've had. Do you know what I mean, though? It had that sort of vibe about it. I mean, there were all sorts of different vibes about it by the end, which we might move on to. But yeah, it felt like that was their big get it done. But of course, yeah, City in 2012 had the one, right, we've done it now. Hang on, we're going to try our very best to undo it. The other thing with Villa that Dan mentioned, obviously you had the aspects of Gerrard as manager and Coutinho scoring. I'm trying to think who like the City parallel would be for Palace. It would be like Pablo Zabaleta managing Palace and Raheem Sterling scoring for him. That'd be good, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Well, I think we will talk more about this shortly because we've got a couple of questions on it. But first, we were 1 goal away in both the Brentford and the Palace games on the charity bet. We didn't land any of the predictions. So we stay on £705 for the season so far. There's 3 games of the season left with a chance to increase it. William Hill is giving us 3 £10 correct score singles. The winnings are going to the Man City Food Bank support group, and there's 2 of those games this week. So we start with the FA Cup final against Chelsea. I am going to go for a 2-1 City win. That is 6-1 and £60 if I'm right. Dan, what are you having?
I'm going to go for Savinho to score the winner in a 1-0 win.
Imagine.
Oh, hello.
Imagine. 13-2 and £65 on the 1-0 bit, not on the Savinho bit. I think that might increase the odds a little bit. Don, what are you having?
I've gone 3-0 because City have been mostly beating teams from London 3-0 this week.
Excellent. Well, I hope it continues. 11-1 and £110 if you're right. We heard earlier that Robert Santonna has gone for a 2-1 Bournemouth victory on Tuesday night. That's 12-1 and £120. Dom, what are you having for this?
I'm afraid it's all over. I've gone 2-2.
Yeah, 2-2. He actually said 2-1 first, but I'd literally just spoken to Rob when he said that, and I had to take that off him, so he went for 2-2, and that's 10-1 and £100. He said, I think your actual words were, go on, I'll give City a goal.
Yeah, Jeremy Doku's going to score deep in stoppage time and shush the Vitality Stadium.
Yeah. Dan, over to you. What are you having?
Well, when I texted you my answer to this, I was going to say 2-2, and I typoed it and wrote 3-2. And then I deleted it and went 2-2. And then you told me 2-2 had gone, so I was like, fuck it, I'll just go with the typo one then. 3-2.
Yeah. 3-2. 3-2 City is 16-1, £160. Hey, listen, if it works out, City's still in the title race.
Savinho to score the winner in that one as well.
I like how we've got a team that have kept, what is it, like 4 clean sheets in the last 6. We've all agreed. The one thing everyone agrees on is City are conceding 2 goals at one. So that's good.
Yeah. Also, I should flag that in our WhatsApp group last night, just before the game, I did say Savinho was going to score, and I said mark my words, and then he did, and I was as stunned as anyone. You've got to be 18 or over to gamble. Prices can change, and for information on responsible gambling, take a look at gambleaware.org.
You're listening to the Blue Moon Podcast. You've made it this far, so don't give up now.
Now then, back to the title race, because we're going to finish with some listener questions at bluemoonpodcast.com on Blue Sky. Contact at bluemoonpodcast.com is the email address, and you can find us on Instagram. Just search for Blue Moon Podcast there. Paul on the email says, I agree that the outcome of the West Ham-Arsenal VAR decision was a foul on the goalkeeper, but I don't understand how all of the other fouls in the box can also be deemed inconsequential. Maybe I'm just bitter because it seems like the last realistic chance of Arsenal dropping points, but it just doesn't feel right the way it's all played out, given how they've spent all season manhandling everyone in the box from set pieces. How do we actually stop this sort of business at corners? If we can't stop it, why don't City do more of it if everyone else is just going to do it as well? Dom, what are your thoughts?
I'm just so bored of it all. It was a foul. That's a shame. But yeah, like everyone else, I enjoyed the West Ham goal. The first replay, you were like, that's a blow. I don't know. So stopping the business at corners, referees giving fouls that are fouls would be a start. In this instance, I guess there's all the grappling that's going on that, rightly or wrongly, in my opinion, wrongly, has just been decided it's fair game. This is the thing where you get into the VAR conversation of all this high bar and you're going to let them grapple because it's a physical game. And it is a little bit like, that is if you asked sort of, people in the pub what do they like, they'd want players to be allowed to be more physical. And you go, yeah, but everyone would say, yeah, of course you do. But if you ask people in the pub, do you want every corner to look like a ruck in rugby union? You'd go, no, that's awful. So it's all these things with the best intentions, with the way football is now officiated with the VAR, that ends up with terrible outcomes. So there's all the, there's Rice with his arms around Mavropanos, there's various bits and bobs going on, but rightly or wrongly, they've become par for the course of the season. I do think if, Pablo's arm being sort of interfering with Raya's arm when he's trying to play the ball, that's just the thing that is clearly a foul. And that, I know people have been showing clips of the Donnarumma one against Bournemouth, but the Bournemouth player had let go of him before he
let go by the time Donnarumma was trying to play the ball. And like that, but does that not feel like congratulations on a technicality? Like you've not fouled him on a technicality.
You got the job on a technicality.
Do you know what? Do you know what does irritate me on this? When people, because there were so many of like the still pictures of like there was one of Emi Martinez, there's various bits and bobs. But the beauty of football, and this is probably why it is completely ill-suited to any sort of far-reaching video official thing. There are no two incidents that are alike. It's a completely open, chaotic game. And when people go, "Oh, we just want consistency," it's like, well, every incident in every football match is unique. I think that's a fair enough thing to say. You don't get an identical corner 2 times in a row and identical bits of grappling. So how do we stop it? I think enforce the rules as a novel idea. I've heard this thing of, I saw Darren Cam was saying this thing of like having no one in the 6-yard box. That sounds mad to me.
Well, all that I worry about with that is that
you'd have the same business on 6 yards from goal.
Yeah, but you'd have the same business 6 yards from goal, but also you might have a ball crossed in, perfectly clean header knocked into the net, but then the VAR checks whether somebody's toe was in the 6-yard box, finds it was, and disallows the goal. Like we get more of these sorts of like toenail offside decisions.
I also as someone who used to completely bottle marking at corners when I played for school and stand on the goal line for the odd heroic clearance, I'd hate to see that disappear from the game because that's where the good stuff's at. Maybe this is me sort of as thinking about this in a cricket fan kind of way, how they have fielding restrictions in one day international, you can only have a certain amount of people inside and outside the fielding circle to encourage run scoring. That thing of, I don't think you ban players from the 6-yard box. One thing I thought that may or may not be workable, I'm sure plenty of people that know more about football officiating than me would tell me it's a rubbish idea. But if you limit it to like 3 or 4 players per team in the 6-yard box, that might kind of even it out. But I'd go back to enforce the rules. Again, remember that time, I think it was Guardiola's first season, where it was like any shirt pull in the area is going to be a penalty, and there was loads of penalties in the first month. Everyone moaned that every game's going to end up 5-4 if this carries on, and it got dropped. So,
do you remember a couple of years ago, we got a penalty at Old Trafford? Maguire pulling Haaland, I think.
Yeah.
And and the same season, I think it was that one, the 4-4 against Chelsea. We got a penalty, Haaland again being fouled, similar kind of thing. So it seemed again they brought back this kind of like, oh, we're going to really penalise this, and then they've just scrapped it again. And that's what frustrates me a bit about the sort of constant flip flopping. Like every season, they just seem to sort of like move the goalposts. Not literally, like that would. They'll probably do that next.
We could do that for corners, actually. Just keep moving the goalposts.
This is the thing, right? And even because this shows the fundamental flaw of VAR. I think everyone agrees that not everyone agrees, but there's a clear case to be made that the correct decision was made. It was understandable that Chris Kavanagh didn't see it. So they went to the video official, he got a better view, he gave the correct decision. Outside of Arsenal fans, no one seems happy about it. And that's where VAR has like lost the hearts and minds thing. It's like that incident on Sunday was VAR working. It wasn't like that mad penalty Celtic got last night.
But should they have chalked off the goal and given a penalty? Like that seemed like a compromise to me in that situation.
I like that just from like the goal or pen thing you do when you're playing in the playground. I like the idea of that deciding the Premier League title race. No, because I think that isn't it. I think listening to that, and I try not to listen to it all because it's all just terrible. Like the audio thing of the officials, it's the fact that the Raya one happens first. Like so, if
the holding offences are happening while the ball is travelling over towards Raya.
Now we're definitely delving into the case of we should just defer to Dale Johnson here because we probably don't all know what we're talking about. But hasn't like the ball got to be? Haven't they got to be vaguely heading towards playing the ball? Like for example, I heard someone say that if the ball had just gone over Raya and like there'd been no infringement, all the rest of it, it would have been a penalty to West Ham because Mavropanos was moving towards the ball. But because the Raya offence happens first, that overrides it.
Right.
Again, we've all just seen so much shite on the internet about this week. I'm probably talking rubbish, but it was a foul. Everything's broken. Get rid of VAR and just start giving fouls.
Yeah, there's no point really complaining about like refereeing decisions. I don't think anymore. It just sort of makes you sound like a mard a lot of the time, and there's no point. And you know, the fact that City aren't going to win the title isn't because of that one decision, is it? I think Arsenal have been very lucky with sort of some pretty big decisions in big games this season. But if we've not dropped, 15 points from leading at half-time this season, then we're not even interested in talking about this, are we? So I think you just got to look at yourself at the end of the day. But yeah, it is annoying. I'm very much in the scrap VAR camp now.
Can you clip that last bit up and send it to Matt Scott? Yeah, that Haaland one you mentioned, though, Dan. I remember at the time that was just like, well, it's just a penalty. But there was 2 days of chat about this. The back and forth of how it wasn't and how it was a disgrace. And it's like it's just every single decision now, and it's exhausting. I can't.
Well, here we are adding to the noise as well. So that's good, isn't it?
I know.
Well, let's kind of weave this in as well, Dan, because Jeff on the emails says, why do you think Arsenal fans aren't enjoying this title race and everything is so angsty with City? Didn't we enjoy it in 2012? And I'm not going to lie, I think after dropping points at Swansea, after losing against Arsenal, the whole of the first 70-odd minutes against Newcastle, pretty much all of the QPR game, I don't remember enjoying that much of it. I remember enjoying the outcome.
Yeah, you enjoy it in sort of retrospect, don't you? But it was pretty hellish. I mean, the thing about Arsenal not enjoying it, like I'd seen a lot of stuff on Twitter, which is not always a fair barometer of how a fan base is feeling necessarily. But in recent weeks, where Arsenal fans just saying like they're not enjoying the football that the team plays, like being quite honest about that, and almost like I think the fact that they've really. Like if this title race goes down to the last couple of days of the season, in a season where City haven't been very good, Liverpool have been crap, Arsenal have just kind of like crawled over the line, I feel like, really. And I'm going to be really salty now. I don't care. I hope I've sort of made my peace with them winning the Premier League because I think it's been coming for a couple of years, and fair enough. I just really don't want them to win the Champions League because I think that kind of rubber stamps them as like a decent team. Whereas I think if they just win the Premier League this season, it will they'll just be remembered as like pretty average team that nobody liked, not even their own fans, really. You know, I don't know if we'll be talking about this Arsenal team for years to come in the way that we've talked about some of Guardiola's teams, or even like Mancini's City team, you know. So I know that wasn't the question that Jeff asked, but yeah, I just wanted to throw that in there.
Good. Let's move away from Arsenal and City then, Dom, and finish on this, because Jules on Blue Sky says, is Bernardo playing the best football of his career? Is it a shame to let him go now?
I think it's right to let him go now, mainly because he's been
trying for a while.
He's been trying to leave for 5 years. I don't know if he's playing the best football of his career, because he's played an awful lot of incredibly good football. I mean, he was stupendous in 2018-19. Like, the fact that Kevin De Bruyne spent half a season out of the, from the 100-point season, the next season he was out for half of it. City ended with 98 points with Bernardo, been brilliant. Then and also the way he played in like that false nine teams, like between like 2000 and all the way up to the treble, like in those seasons, just playing false nine, playing right wing, playing left back, holding midfield. He's holding midfielder now apparently over the last week or so. He's phenomenal. I loved the 1894 tifo of him.
I mean, to be fair, actually, credit to 1894. The two tifos on Wednesday night were absolute class. I love the Stones one, and the Bernardo one was fantastic.
I saw someone complain. I mean, and each to their own of these things. I'm sure I saw a comment on social media of someone complaining about all the great things he's done, and you've got him holding the coffee cup for when we finished second to Liverpool. It's like, yeah, but it was such a phenomenally just snide moment from him, and he's the best snide footballer ever, isn't he?
Did you see what Pep Lijnders said about him when he did the press conference, Dan, a few weeks ago? He basically said, yeah, when I was at Liverpool, I hated him, but now I love him.
Yeah, and Bernardo still hates Liverpool. That was it on the weekend when he slapped the ball out of Henderson's hand. Like he'll be taking that to his grave, that hatred of Liverpool, won't he? Yeah, I mean, last season, I think I really appreciated Bernardo just showing up for the team in the way that he did, and when everyone else was like getting injured and stuff, he just kept going. I don't think he played very well last season, unfortunately, and I think early part of this season I wasn't enjoying the way that he was playing particularly hugely, but I think sort of second half of the season I think he's really been incredible. As a captain, I think he's been fantastic. The players love him, the fans love him. He puts a shift in, he's a little shithouse. He's a legend of this club, as far as I'm concerned, and always will be. And it's sad to see him go. I think it's probably the right time, but I also wouldn't be surprised if he just ended up staying somehow and just still being here in 3-4 years' time. It really wouldn't surprise me if there was some kind of U-turn on that. But I think he deserves his moment in the sun.
Yeah.
Imagine he does the Gundo and comes back a year later.
Yeah. Well, that is it for this episode of the Blue Moon Podcast. Thank you very much to my guests, Dom Farrell.
Thank you very much.
And Dan Burke.
Thank you.
Don't forget, tickets are on sale for the live podcast now. That's taking place at Idle Hands in Manchester on Tuesday the 26th of May, starting at 8 o'clock. And our special guest will be the former City manager, Brian Horton. Tickets are £5 from tickets.bluemoonpodcast.com. And there's a clip of this week's Nostalgia episode coming up shortly. That was me and Dan going back down memory lane to the 08-09 season. If you want to hear the full thing now, just head on over to members.bluemoonpodcast.com. I'll be back next week, so I'll see you then.
That was the Blue Moon Podcast. Please give the show a rating and a review where you can. And don't forget, you can listen without the ads by signing up to our Patreon. You'll also get an extra episode each Monday. Here's a clip of this week's.
That EB Straymore tie, I always remember that. I remember those guys chartering the fishing trawler to go over to the Faroe Islands, just brilliant. One of them was this guy called Bill, who used to go on Blue Moon. He was called De Niro on there. You probably remember him because he really looked like Robert De Niro. I actually got a lift down to the Sunderland game in his car. That one where Sean Wright Phillips played, and he was telling us all about they'd been to Straymore on the fishing trawler and stuff like that. It's just like part of this colourful tapestry that is Manchester City, some of the things that I'm most proud of are just like a bunch of lads just being mad enough to charter a fishing trawler to go to the Faroe Islands. Like that is as important to me as any kind of like stuff that City have won over the years. Just all this like the characters that have followed the club.
How about playing a home game at Barnsley's Oakwell because John Bon Jovi is playing the stadium that you have? That's that's the second leg, and I wonder all these kind of Faroese folk who have come over for one of their biggest games ever, and they think, why are we going to this little place called Barnsley?
Yeah, and it's not even like it's round the corner, Barnsley, is it? It's like, it's a different county. Like,
I wonder what the calculation was, number of tickets sold versus distance to travel.
You can listen to more of that at patreon.com/Blue Moon Podcast. And join us again next time for another episode.